Hello, and welcome to part 2 of my command block tutorial series, and this is going to be on target selector arguments. But first, I want to go over what a target selector and target selector argument are. So throughout this tutorial, you're going to be using this command a lot, which is execute if entity, which basically will just say, if whatever entity I specify exists in the world, then I can continue on. So one way that I could specify the entity is by typing out the username of like a player. But what if I want to target something other than a player, or if I don't know the exact username of the person I'm going to be targeting? That's where you can type @ and you have these options pop up. So you have @A, which targets all players, @E, which targets all entities, @P, which targets the closest player, @R, which it says it targets the random player. It's actually a random entity, so even if something like an armor stand or a zombie or a villager will still count, as long as you specify it's. Well, actually, never mind. I'll get into that later. And @S targets yourself. So say I do this, and then I can enter a command after this by saying run, and then I'll say test, which I do throughout the whole, like a whole bunch of times throughout this. And because I exist, it will say test. Also, if I do all players, I'm a player that exists in the world, and so it will find me. But what if I don't want, what if I don't want this to activate with every single player, and I only want specific players, or I'm only looking for specific players? After the target selector, you can enter into these. You can enter these two square brackets and fill in stuff in between them. Here's the whole list that pops up, as well as more. That will basically narrow down the search and will give you a more specific search for that entity. So now, with that out of the way, let's get into what these individual ones are. So first off, we have coordinate, which you can set a specific x, y, and or z coordinate, and that's where the command will be run from. So what's important to know with the coordinate one, let me get rid of this just to show. You set an x, a y, and a z. So currently I have it set to the coordinate of this block right here. And what that does is the command is not saying to only affect what's at that coordinate. Instead, it's saying to run from that coordinate. So right now I have the command being set to say test. So if I run this, you'll see it's still going to say test to me, even though I'm not at that coordinate. Because just think about it. Basically, what it's doing right now is instead of this block, or instead of the command being run from the command block, it's actually just going to run the command from whatever is at this coordinate. Like, not literally the block at that coordinate, but just picture whatever this coordinate is where the command is being run from, not this coordinate. So, a more intended use for coordinates that like a lot of people will be wanting it for can be solved or created with another argument, which is your distance argument, which sets a maximum or minimum radius that a command will affect, and it's done by with an R and RM value, and it's going to say any block that's that's less than or equal to R blocks away is going to affect it, as well as anything that's greater than RM blocks away. Whoops, my bad. That's not the right button. So for this example right here, I say it has to be greater than 2 blocks away, but less than or equal to 4 blocks away. So I have this set up. And what's important to note is that an R of 1 or an RM of 1 is equal to the block that the command block is on. So even though it looks like I would say I'm 1 block away from this command block, but this is technically 2 blocks away because this is 1 block away, this is 2. So starting from this third one, you'll see it starts to send that, it starts to affect me, as well as going into the fourth. But the second I step into this fifth block, you'll see it stops saying test, because I'm outside of that range. So now knowing this, we can go into here and add comma r equals 1, because you can stack these. You're not only limited to one argument. And now when I start to run this, it's not going to say anything to me until I'm at that coordinate, because now it's running from that coordinate within a range of 1. So it's not saying a range around the command block, it's a range around that coordinate. So next up, we have our volume dimension, which basically takes the coordinate system and expands it into 3-dimensional space. And because of that, you're not going to need that r equals 1 anymore. So here, as an example, it's done through this. You input that x, y, and z just like you did with a coordinate, but you also then add a dx, dy, and or dz. So right now, I just have a dz, and I have it set to -3. So what that means is it goes to the x, y, and z of that coordinate, which is this block right here, and then the dz is -3, so it will go expand out -3 blocks on the z-axis, which is this one, and this one. And so if I activate this, if I'm standing here, as well as if I'm standing on any of these 3 blocks, I'll see test. I can also optionally add the dx and dy as along with this, and it will just basically just make a cube that it will affect you when you're sending it. Our next argument is vertical rotation, which it will target an entity looking at a specific degree of rotation from -90, which is directly up, to +90, which is directly down. The horizon is at 0. And it's anything less than or equal to rx and greater than or equal to, actually this is a typo, it's supposed to be rxm, not rmx. So if you look at this, it's right now saying anything less than or equal to -45, sorry, greater than or equal to -45, but less than or equal to 0. And so the 0 is horizon, -45 is around here. It's 45 degrees up from the horizon. It's kind of confusing because negative is up when I usually think of negative being down. But if I activate, it's not going to affect me until I'm at within this vertical rotation. And once I look too far up, it will stop. Once I look back down, it will start again. So that's vertical rotation. Next up is horizontal rotation, which it targets entity looking at a specific horizontal rotation with both -180 and +180 are looking directly north. 0 degrees is looking directly south. So basically think of it as having south, and as it increases, as you increase in value, you start to look more and more west until you're at +90, which is directly west. Then you keep increasing up till you reach +180, and that's when you can either think about it as reverting to negative and then decreasing till you get back to 0, or you can just jump back to where that 0 was, and if you start subtracting now, you can subtract until you get to -90, which is directly east, and then keep subtracting until you're back to north. However way you want to think, there's different ways of thinking to try to help you remember this, or you can just refer back to the wiki and stuff. And this is with ry and rym. So if you look at example here, I have it set to be between -85 and -95, which is going to be around this direction. Another example, what I had earlier, was between -170 and +170. Oh, actually swap those. Right now it's set anywhere here, but not looking essentially just north. I have a little bit of a little degree of freedom. I looked at this one, which was as soon as you look north, this direction is north, it will start to say test, and then when you look out of that range, it stops. I'm actually just going to jump back. I forget to mention this, and something like a tip I like to remember, so I don't get confused in writing this, is whenever I have, like say these two numbers are different, whatever the lower number is, I put in the RXM, which just helps me to remember, because sometimes it's possible, say I did, this was 0, and this was -45, it's it won't trigger on anything because of that. So put the lower value into, whoops, I pasted, and I had the a wiki page copied. This button pastes, if you don't know. I press it accidentally fairly frequently. But yeah, let's go. We're finished with rotation, and now we have scores. And this is a very important target selector argument. I tend to use it a lot. It will target an entity with a specific score. So this works directly with the /scoreboard command. So if you're unfamiliar, I'm just going to go over creating a scoreboard and then setting my score. So when you type /scoreboard, you have two options that you can go with, either objectives or players. Players is where you like set or add scores to a player or entity. Objectives is where you create scoreboards and stuff like that. So if we use objectives add, you can then come up with an objective name, which is however you are referring. Whenever you refer to this scoreboard through commands, you use the objective name. Then we go here, we have to declare what type of scoreboard it is. On Bedrock, there is only dummy, which just means a numerical value, like you just input a numerical value. On Java Edition, there's like tons more different scoreboard types that get changed like via in-game events, which is stuff like clicking a carrot on a stick, which is frequently used for right-click detection. On Bedrock, unfortunately, there's only dummy. We kind of just have to make do with that. But yeah, so you would type dummy, and then this is your display name, which is whenever a player is like interacting with the scoreboard, say you have it set to display on the side or something like that. This is the name that players will see. Just for simplicity, I'm going to give it the same name. These can be different though, and a use case for having them be different is, say you want a space in the display name. Anytime you use a space in a command, like for something's name, you would have to put in quotes. And so doing commands around something that has to be in quotes and with spaces, it tends to be annoying to remember. So it's usually easier, like I just have test here, which is something simple and easy to remember. But then say I wanted the display to be like, this is an example scoreboard. That would be annoying to have to put in every single time I wanted to refer to the scoreboard. So actually, I'm just going to do this. I'll leave that as its display name, and I'm going to go back and set. I'm going to go back to scoreboard objectives, and I'm going to do set display. I'm going to do sidebar, which means the side of the screen, and the objective name was test. And so you'll see this is an example scoreboard. That was the display name showing up. If I go /scoreboard and players, I'm going to set myself within test. I'm going to set my score to 1. So now, sorry, I had something filled in. Yeah, I'm actually just going to clear this whole thing. So the way that you use this, you type scores is equal to, followed by curly brackets, and now the objective name of that scoreboard is equal to, and then whatever score you want to specify. You could then do comma, and say you want to put in a second scoreboard. That's where you do it here. So whatever it's called, you still will do. Whatever. I'm just going to do it with one scoreboard though. So right now, my score is 1, and it's searching for a score of 1. If I activate this, it will see me. Say I have a score of 0. It's not going to do it. But what if I want to target players with any score of 1 or less? That's where you would do .1, which means anything less than or equal to 1. So right now it will find me. So you run .1, and now you see I have a score less than or equal to 1. Additionally, you can do 1 ... which will do any score greater than or equal to 1. So say I have 5, it'll go off. And also you can do to set between specific scores. So you would do like 1 ... 5, and now this will go between a score of 1 and 5. So say I have 3, it will find me. So yeah, that's how you scores. I'm actually just going to quickly remove this scoreboard because it's annoying me. Next up, we have tag, which is similar to scoreboard. The difference is that you don't need a value attached with this. You just have the tag itself. So picture having like being like the scoreboard, but with any value instead of a specified one. So you do this with the tag command. You would just do @s add and then whatever name you want. I'll just call it test. And you see I have it searching for a tag of test. And it finds me. If I remove this, it's not going to find me. Next up we have name, which targets an entity via its name. So right now I have it set, to look for all entities with a name of test. Right now there's nothing in this world with that name. But if I go up to this name tag and I rename this Ormerston to test, it will now see it. Well, now there's something that exists, and so I'll do that. Next we have type, which is it targets entities based on their type. So for example, that's like I would be type of player. That's type of armor stand. Oh, whoops. Let me just write that back. Execute if entity at E type equals. For this example, I was going to use type of villager. Run say test. So if I activate this, there's no villagers in this world, so it's not going to do anything. But say I spawn in a villager, it'll now start to say test because it sees it. Similar to type is family, which is essentially a predefined list in the game's code that groups several types into what are known as families. So I'm going to post a link in the description to a page that has every single family written out. For this example, I'm going to use undead, which is just things that burn in the day, so zombie skeletons. And so you'll see if I activate it, there's nothing undead in this world. Say I put a creeper down, creeper doesn't count, so it won't do anything. If I put a skeleton out, it will see it. If I do a zombie, once again, we'll see it. If I get rid of them, it stops. So I'm just going to put these back here. And we can move into the next thing, which is has item. So this is kind of complicated. You basically have these 5 different parameters that you can input, and it will target a player with a specific item based on that. So for an example, let me get an item. I'll get a wooden axe. If I do, I'm just going to do it in the command here so you can see with the autofill because this one is probably one of the most complicated target select arguments. So if we do has item, you do equal to. And now you can have 2 different things. There's either curly brackets or square brackets. If you're just doing items, like 1 to multiple items, you only need curly brackets. So say I do like, whoops, item equals wooden underscore axe. I could then close that off with a curly bracket, close it off with that square bracket to finish that target select argument. Run say test. And because I have that axe, it says it. If I do it without, it fails because it can't find me. This could also, you could have multiple items. Let's see, I'll do potion, which I don't have one right now. Okay. Oh, whoops. This is what I did wrong. They go in that same curly bracket. So right now it's not going to find me. If I get a potion, I'll get instant health. And I'll run this again. Now it's going to find me. But there's other parameters that you can use. And if you want to use them, you have to change the formatting. You put these square brackets in. And within them, so you do square bracket, then curly bracket. And now I'll do item again. And I'll do potion. And then close off that curly bracket and do comma. And starting off another curly bracket, I can enter another parameter. So this, I'll do quantity. This is another simple thing to understand. This is just how many. So I'll do 1. And if I finish this off, oops, What did that? Wait, what did that say? Item missing required for Hasitem filter. Whoops. Has item potion, comma. Oh, that might be because of this. Say I do dirt, and then I do quantity equals 2. One sec. Alright, I'm sorry about that. I just put that thing in wrong. So it's that the comma has to be within the curly brackets. So yeah, but as I was saying, if you have the reason here, let me actually go back. So you have the two options of either the square brackets or curly brackets. If you're only doing one type of item, so say item equals dirt, you only need the curly brackets. But if you're doing, say, multiple items with like extra things added onto them, in the case of like just items, so item equals dirt, comma, item equals, what's another, allow, sure, run, say, test, and then give myself an allow. It will go off. But if I want to use those other parameters along with the items, then I would need these square brackets followed by the curly brackets, and say I want to do this. So say I do item equals dirt, and I want quantity of 2 for the dirt, and then I want item is potion. So you see these commas go, this was my mistake earlier, the commas go inside the curly brackets when specifying these extra parameters. So we have quantity equals 2. I'm actually just going to do this just to make it easier, or like take up less space on the screen. So quantity is just the number that you need. So if I take 2 potions, now we'll do it. Say I set quantity to 1. I now need exactly 1 potion. Another thing that you can put in is data, which is also pretty easy to understand. So for this, I'll do 21. What data does is, oh, I didn't. Say, like with the /give command, say you want to give yourself a potion. You see, when you do this, it just gives you that water bottle. But if you want to specify which potion, you first put it in amount, but then you have this data value. So each potion in the game has a specific data value. One of data value of 21 will give you healing 1. The way to like figure out what it is, starting from 0, just count your way to reach that potion, and that's what its data value would be. So see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be number 21. So by putting in that data value, and now it can't just be any potion like what it was previously doing. It has to be that specific instant health. Oh, I forgot. There's 2 of them to fully close it off. I was missing one. So yeah, now it's gonna work. Next, when you use one of these, sorry, that's not true. When you use slot, you need location as well. But if you use location, you don't need slot. So location, you then set it equal to, and you have these different options. So like something like slot that hotbar. Slot that hotbar, close that off, and say test. It's gonna work. Say I move this out of my hotbar into just my inventory, it's not gonna find it anymore. So that's what location does. There's also, you saw there was like armor, just a bunch of different slots. But now say I want it in my hotbar, but I want it specifically to be in this second hotbar slot. So that's going to be this is considered slot 0, this is considered slot 8, so this is going to be slot 1. So we keep location, and then we do comma slot is equal to 1. Close it off. And now see, this is in slot 0, so it's not going to do anything. If we move it into slot 1, now it will see it. And say you want multiple items now. Now outside of that curly bracket is where you do that comma, and you can start again with item equals dirt. Quantity equals 2. Now I'm going to need exactly 2 dirt, which is right here. 1, 2. And now it will work. So that's Hasitem. It's like very beneficial for, especially for map making, stuff like that. But it also is very complicated. Although, if you think about it, I think that's better than having something simple, because there's more use out of something complicated like this, compared to if you didn't have that, if you weren't able to specify that much detail, it would have less use. So even though it is really complicated to understand, or complicated to get the formatting right, I think it is very beneficial for the argument, because it just allows you to go into more detail. So next up, I had to look at the wiki for that. We have level, which will target a specific XP level. So you have, it's going to be less than or equal to L and greater than or equal to LM. So let me switch into survival mode so you can see my level. So game mode S. Right now I have a level of 40. Although I'm going to have to go back into creative to open up this command book and see what it says. So L of 50 means it has to be less than or equal to 50 levels, and LM of 45 has to be greater than or equal to 45. So if I go to game mode survival, you see it's not going to activate. If I give myself some XP, if I give myself 5 levels, and I'll be at 45, and so it works. If I give myself, now I'm at 55, and I'm outside of that range again, it's not going to work. Next up, we have game mode, which will target an entity with a specific game mode. So if you see, if I flip this lever, it's not going to do anything. And if I go back into creative, now it will. And that's because I have M is set to creative. You can also just do C. You don't need to type out creative. That also works. It's the same game modes that appear when you type this. Like this list right here. So S is survival, even though there's spectator, which previously wasn't on Bedrock. I'm really happy that they added that. That was a great change. So yeah, that's game mode. Next up is Haspermission, which will target things with specific camera and movement permissions, which I believe this is a new thing because I hadn't heard of it until recently. Which is that you can set okay, so it's /input permission set, and now you can give permissions for the camera. So you can say set the camera to be disabled, and now I can walk around, but I can't move my camera. You can also do movement disabled, and now we can't move or use my camera. And then I can also just go back and enable those. Right now I can use my camera, but I can't move. And then, yeah, so now that's back. So what this does is you do Haspermission equals, and then within curly brackets, you do camera is equal to, and then either enabled or disabled, comma, movement is equal to either enabled or disabled. You don't need both, you only need one, or you could do it with just camera or just movement. It still goes in those curly brackets though. So that's Haspermission. And lastly, we have limit, which targets a specific number of entities. So right now, I'm actually, here. So I'm combining it with this other one, or I'm combining it with type, and I'm using this exclamation point, which you may have seen as I was typing some things in with that autofill would show up. What the exclamation point means is just not. So right now this is saying type is equal to not a player. So this is anything but a player. And now we have count is equal to 2. So what this is going to do is find the closest to So it will be this one and this one. And it will run that command, which right now I just kill. And so when I press that, it kills those two. Let me spawn in something like... Here, I have a spawn egg in this chest. Let's do a creeper. If I just spawn in 3 creepers, I'll just set up a little thing so they can't escape. Go like this. And now I'm going to set this to be type is not equal to player, type is not equal to armor stand, because I don't want to mess up any of the armor stands I have. So when you have it set to 2, it goes the closest to. Another thing you can do with this command, if you set it to -2, it will kill the 2 farthest. Oh, because it killed that villager. It was the farthest non-armor stand and non-player. And then that creeper was the second farthest. So yeah, that covers all the target selector arguments. There's also, as you saw, that I needed to consult. If you go to target selector, you have this whole wiki of information that you can look through, which has both Java and Bedrock Edition stuff. You know, you have each one in detail with examples. Yeah, like you have these Bedrock examples, stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm also going to leave that link to the family, which, yeah, I have that copied. This is what it looks like. You have a ton of like different families that you can use. That's weird that they have one just for turtle. But, yeah, so, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, learned something. Yeah, bye.